Hello everyone and welcome back to Alternative Apex Formula Equal here for the third event of the season here for the Japanese Grand Prix at the Suzuka circuit, the famed race circuit which has been in Formula 1 for such a long time now. It's a unique circuit in Formula 1, the drivers love it and the fans love it too. The only circuit in Formula 1 with a figure of 8 layout. The first sector, high speed cornering through the S section, followed by a blast through the two fast right-handers pull the hairpin, and then the spoon curve takes them up towards 130R, a very daunting corner on this race circuit. Now, let's have a look at the starting grid for today's event. On pole position, it is Max Verstappen there for Rebel Racing, looking for his first win of the season. Alongside him on the front row, Charles Leclerc, also looking for his first win of the season. Two drivers who haven't had luck on their side. Then it's the two winners behind them, with Norris and Russell. Alonso and Tsunoda making up row 3 there, ahead of Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz there. Jack Doohan in 9th place, Liam Lawson in 10th, Andrea Kimi Antonelli just outside the top 10 there, Alex Albon behind him, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, two drivers who had a strong start to the season now, Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton behind them. Lance Stroll just ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto, Franco Colapinto in 19th ahead of Oliver Behrman, and Isaac Hadjar rounds out the field there in what is a very rookie-heavy back end of the grid. That's the order then as we get ready for the race. We are just a moment away now from the start. Everyone is starting to make their way off of the starting grid. The teams are making the final adjustments to make sure everything is perfect for this race start ahead of them now. This track very tricky to overtake on, so starting down the field will be a painful experience perhaps, but we do not know what could happen in the laps ahead of us here, so really anything is possible for anyone on this grid. But of course, Leclerc and Verstappen on the front row, what can they do in another exciting battle perhaps between those two young stars of the sport? The 5 red lights are on then. And we are racing in Japan here, and it's a strong start from Max Verstappen, who immediately chops across to the inside line. Leclerc's coming under pressure from Lando Norris, but the top 3 stay as they are, as they head through turn 1 and 2 for the first time here today. Fernando Alonso looking to try and make positions here. He's racing with Yuki Tsunoda, who's had a strong start up into 5th place. Behind the Piastri and Sainz, side by side, McLaren versus Williams. Two teams with a long history in this sport, racing around this circuit in particular for pretty much its entire existence now. Those two drivers, as Piastri goes a little bit wide there, that's going to give Sainz the position as they come out of the S's and up over the top of the hill. Now they go. You can see the field still absolutely side by side throughout the pack here, as that is Esteban Ocon coming under pressure there from Alexander Albon. Ocon made a very strong start there to get himself into the top 10 here. Piastri, you can see, still having a little look at the back of the Williams just ahead of him as they head into the hairpin here. One of the overtaking opportunities for the lap here, but it is a risky move still as they then blast their way towards the spoon curve here. Very high speed section of the lap here, throwing the car into spoon corner. And Max Verstappen will lead them out of spoon curve for the first time here today. Charles Leclerc keeping them just about in sight there. George Russell with Yuki Tsunoda behind there, as you can see those two very close to each other, as Carlos Sainz is still trying to battle with Oscar Piastri here. These two drivers trying to make their way into the top 7 positions. Sainz a little bit of contact there, and Oscar Piastri gets the move done. Good stuff there from the Australian driver, as we see the field flowing out of the chicane now and onto the main straight once more, as we see the field making their way down. But look at that, that's Carlos Sainz. He wants to get back into this scrap here without the help of DRS. He retakes the position as up the road we've got George Russell versus Yuki Tsunoda, the home hero, putting on a show for his fans, and he gets up into 4th place there ahead of George Russell, as Fernando Alonso watches on closely behind Tsunoda. Up into that 4th position now, as the battle that has been raging on so far in this race looks to be set to continue, as they're side by side through 130R there. Oscar Piastri on the inside of Carlos Sainz. This is where he made the move last time around. It's copy-paste for Oscar Piastri. He gets it done again here, but will it last this time here, as Carlos Sainz is right up the gearbox of Piastri as they head onto the main straight here. DRS is now available, and we can see Fernando Alonso having a look at the move on Russell, not quite able to go for it, but behind Piastri, with the help of DRS, finally able to hold on to that position in 7th. But now can Sainz fight back? It looks like that will not be the case, as it's Esteban Ocon on the move here in these early stages of the Grand Prix, as is Liam Lawson and Alex Albon behind them battling as they make their way through 130R here. Sainz trying to hold on to this position, but again, just like the previous 2 laps, he loses the position around the outside of the chicane, and Ocon up into 8th position, continuing his strong performances so far this season here. But Sainz, look how close he is as they start the straight there. He pulls out of the slipstream immediately, and he's going to be all the way clear as they head into the first turn there. Albon just ahead of Lawson behind. Now we see the 2 Alpine drivers battling it out. Doohan versus Gasly. Gasly has shown more optimal pace this season so far, but Doohan has not been half bad himself there. Both of them well clear of Colapinto at this point of the race here. As we've got side by side just outside of the points here, it's Nico Hulkenberg and Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson trying to go all the way around the outside. Again, we're seeing this move into the chicane being the one of choice. Most of the field here on the hard or medium compound tyre, going with a pretty conservative one-stop strategy. As now Sainz, is he going to lose the place this time around? He is. Ocon down the inside into turn 1, and there is nothing that Sainz can do that time. Oh, but no, he spins! Ocon goes around and he's into the wall and out of the race. Esteban Ocon made the overtake. One of the stars of the season crashes out, and he is out of the Japanese Grand Prix here. Let's see it on board, a replay from Ocon's perspective through the exit at turn 2, and he just loses the rear end, and he slides into the barrier there. Esteban Ocon, heartbreaking stuff for the Frenchman after such an impressive season so far. And with the safety car deployed for that crash, Max Verstappen is coming into the pit lane now. The Red Bull driver will make his way down pit lane, and he'll be glad that he did not pit any earlier than this, because he could have lost the track position, which he is holding on to at the moment now, and this safety car will give him a good chance in this race at just maintaining it, making it a bit of a boring Max Verstappen show really, as he comes out of the pits, and he will get that position still, as that's perfect timing from the Red Bull pit crew. Tsunoda just pulling in for the double stack just behind him here, and as they leave the pit lane, it is still Leclerc in second, Norris in third, Piastri getting held up quite a bit there, and a painful season for the Australian so far. Looks like it is not going to improve anytime soon here. He does just manage to hold on to 7th place though, because the entire field is having to double stack on this pit stop here. Lots of drivers losing out here. Lewis Hamilton was outside of the points and will stay outside of the points, but he does get up into 12th position there. Maybe gained a little bit from that little pit cycle there, but as the safety car is still out on the track, the positions are frozen now until the track is deemed clear. Albon down in 13th there, he lost some ground. Antonelli in 14th. Stroll behind him then, as the safety car now peels its way through the final chicane and off the racetrack into the pit lane. It is Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris. They are still your top 3 here as we get ready to go back to green flag racing here. Out of the final corner they charge, and it's Max Verstappen who will lead us back to green here, and Charles Leclerc is in the slipstream trying to take advantage here of the restart. He's closer than he would have been otherwise, but can he make anything of it? No, with DRS still disabled I should say, sorry, on this restart. It means that Leclerc isn't quite able to get the run through the first corner. Verstappen looking back at Leclerc now as they head through the S section. This is where the Rebels should be able to just use the dirty air to its advantage and pull away now, as we see them heading out of there, and that's a big moment from Yuki Tsunoda coming out of the second of the Degners there. The home hero now under pressure from George Russell around the outside. The Mercedes versus the Red Bull here. The Red Bull of Tsunoda looking oh so impressive in that first stint, making the move on Russell, but it appears now slightly different tyre strategies from the two drivers. Russell on those soft compound tyres, he's gone aggressive, and that is going to give him a chance here at staying ahead of Tsunoda. But Tsunoda wants to fight back here. He's dreaming of a home podium here. He's got some work to do though, as he's not quite able to make the move into 130R there. He's on the back of his rival though, as they head into the chicane. And speaking of being on the back of your rival, it's Lando Norris on the back of Charles Leclerc here. This is incredibly close here for the second position in this race. Lando Norris already has 1 second place to his name. Can he make it 2 as he uses the DRS to get to the outside, but he's not quite able to get all the way alongside there as they head into turn 1. Lando Norris has been the man in charge so far this season, with a second and a first to start the season so far, and currently running in 3rd place. Will he complete his hat-trick of podiums, or will he be able to add or even perhaps lose out in this race? Still to go. Carlos Sainz on the back of Oscar Piastri here as they head into the final chicane. Once again, another battle that's being revived here from the first stint, but as we look further up the road here, look how close it is here. George Russell wants to get involved in this scrap for the podium positions. He's now on the back of Norris. Norris just able to hold on, but look at here now, Tsunoda. He's dropping through the field as that's Fernando Alonso up into the top 5 now. Tsunoda, after such an impressive first stint, dropping back a little bit now. Sainz has got up into 7th place there ahead of Piastri, as now we see Charles Leclerc in 2nd place, but still he has George Russell and Lando Norris right up behind him, the two winners so far this season. They want to improve their position. Norris again has a little bit of a look into turn 1, but he's just not quite close enough to make anything of it. As behind we see Doohan making a move on Lawson here, two drivers battling it out for their careers in Formula 1. And look at how close this group of cars are still for the podium position. Charles Leclerc just had, oh, but he's locked up. Charles Leclerc's locked up into the hairpin. He's lost both of those two positions, and he goes from being on the podium and defending to now off the podium and having to attack here. Lando Norris into 2nd place here, making himself really a top driver this season and perhaps the man to beat, even if he is only in 2nd at the moment. Max Verstappen has cleared off into the distance in this race, but points-wise, that retirement in round 1 means Verstappen still has a lot of work to do this season. Norris, though, will now be feeling the pressure from George Russell and Charles Leclerc as they head up towards 130. Leclerc not quite close enough to make anything happen through there. Into the chicane they go once more as they prepare to start the final lap of the race. This has been an incredible Grand Prix, as there's issues further down the order. Jack Doohan appears to be slowing, and Jack Doohan's got a problem. The Australian driver, who was on the verge of points, if not set to get some points now, has a problem, and as he pulls off to the side of the road, perhaps a puncture there for the Australian driver, he comes down pit lane, and he is basically out of this race now. As just up the road, we've got Lewis Hamilton looking for his first point of the season here, and down the inside of Hulkenberg. That may well be the move to take it, as Hulkenberg will only have one real opportunity left to attack back as they head towards the chicane on the final lap here. But Lewis Hamilton finally in the top 10 this season. But up at the front, Max Verstappen has been utterly dominant, like he threatened to be in Australia before the engine issues. Max Verstappen is going to be back on top here in Formula 1, and he's going to make it 3 different winners in the first 3 races of the season. Max Verstappen wins the Japanese Grand Prix. It's Lando Norris to make it 3 consecutive podiums, the same for George Russell to start this season. Leclerc, Alonso, Tsunoda, Piastri, Sainz, Lawson, and just clinging on to take the final point position from this race, it's Lewis Hamilton with a point to his name. The podium celebrations being prepared now for the Red Bull team, who are on top now. Once more in Formula 1, Max Verstappen showing what he is capable of this season. He would have been the favourite for this championship coming into the Formula Equal season here. With everyone in balanced machinery, you'd expect the current star of Formula 1 to be the man on top. Well, it's taken a couple of races, but he's there now finally. He wins the Japanese Grand Prix, but for this championship challenge, he's going to need a few more of those races to get back in the hunt here, with the 2 drivers alongside him on the podium being the 2 men currently leading this championship fight, Lando Norris and George Russell. They're 2 winners already this season. All 3 of our winners so far this season standing on the podium here in this Grand Prix. But who, if anyone, can add their name to the winners list this season, as these 3 drivers have been really the men to beat so far this season. They have been a little bit of a step above the rest so far this championship, but with a bit of a wild card race coming up next time out in Bahrain, I should say, sorry. Could we see something different happening? Who knows? So here we see the official results for the Japanese Grand Prix. Max Verstappen taking that win with fastest lap, just expressing how dominant he was in that race. Lando Norris second ahead of George Russell. Charles Leclerc, that mistake late on in the race, costing the podium position here. He'll be looking to bounce back in Bahrain. Fernando Alonso just behind him there for Aston Martin. Yuki Tsunoda there in his home Grand Prix. It was looking so good briefly, and if he'd held on to that P4, perhaps he would have been standing on the podium with that mistake from Charles Leclerc, but sadly not for him. Oscar Piastri comes home in 7th, ahead of Carlos Sainz, and Liam Lawson. Lewis Hamilton takes his first point of the season. In the Drivers' Championship, it is still Lando Norris who leads the way with a 6-point margin over George Russell as they head to the next round of the season in Bahrain. All of these drivers still really in this title fight, even Lewis Hamilton all the way down there on 1 point. There is a long way to go in this season. Anyone can get themselves back into this fight. Russell, though, at the moment, is Lando Norris' main contender. Charles Leclerc just keeping an eye on them so far this season. Max Verstappen, if you'd give him the points he would have got in Australia, he would be leading this championship, and by a decent margin. So Max Verstappen, keep an eye on him this season. He clearly has the speed to contend for this championship. Fernando Alonso in 5th at the moment, Just reminding people that even at his age, he is one of the top drivers in Formula 1 still. In the constructors' standings, it is McLaren who lead the way there, ahead of Mercedes, a 23-point margin between the two. Piastri has had a rough start to the season so far, but thankfully for McLaren, it's been an even rougher start to the season for rookie Kimi Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda in Red Bull. You actually looked pretty good in that race, but of course with the issues that Red Bull have had in the season opening round and so on, it has not been the start of the season that they would be wanting to have so far, with Ferrari just behind them ahead of Williams, Aston Martin, Haas and Sauber. So, as I mentioned, next time out we're going to the Bahrain International Circuit, and we expect more excitement when we get there. The drama has been building already this season. We've had failures, we've had crashes. What will we see when we go to the Bahrain Circuit in a week's time? Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all then. Goodbye.